If you have questions, concerns, and are just lost when it comes to planning for retirement, meet Steve Hoyl and Derek Caldwell of the Hoyl Financial Group. You know, we talk about the risk in the market. Everybody knows that, right? You're putting your chips on there and you're hoping that things just keep going the right way. We also know the market can change on a dime. Well, 30 years ago, many retirees, they weren't as exposed to market swings as they are now. So that's the big difference when Steve's talking about risk. So things weren't as volatile, I guess, as they are today than they were 20, 30 years ago. So now that we know that, and listen, we live in a different world with inflation and taxes, how different is the planning conversation today when someone is close to retirement, let's say right now, during a volatile market, compared to a possible volatile market, let's say 30 years ago?
Well, Jess, I think what's different about it is one social media post could make the market correct 30%. One newscaster's prediction just takes a little bit for a huge correction. So what I think is so important is that people really sit down and understand, like we were talking about the risk, but if you're within, let's just say you're within 2 years of retirement, people don't understand, but you dollar cost average into your retirement, either once a month or every paycheck. You add to those retirement dollars. So wherever the market is at that point, you're buying shares into the market. Well, when you get close to retirement, you need a dollar cost average right back out of the market to make sure that you don't have one big correction and it wipes you out. I mean, it happens all the time and people don't realize it. And then it's too late, Jess. They don't have time on their side.
Absolutely. I mean, it even goes back to the old analogy probably your grandparents or great-grandparents said, is that we live in a faster world now, right? Faster concerning the market, faster concerning how quick the market can change, the volatility, faster concerning the rules of retirement that have changed. And, you mentioned about having that sustainable income. So no matter what the risk, no matter what the volatility is, you have to have a bucket of money that's going to be sustainable. And let's talk about this for a moment, because 30 years ago, more people could count on pensions. Let's be honest, those are very few and far between, if not non-existent these days. And a lot of folks, they put all their eggs in one basket when it comes to their 401ks or IRAs or even personal savings. But there has to be a shift of that burden and the stress. And I bring that up because that shift needs to go to more of a guaranteed income opportunity. Right, Steve?
Absolutely. Back in the day, everybody had what we call this three-legged stool. They had their Social Security, they had this fabulous pension, and then they had their kind of emergency money, retirement money. But Jess, it's not that way anymore. So many people come to us and say, I need that income. And a lot of people describe all the things they want, and it's an income annuity. So it's to make sure you have income each and every month for the rest of your life. And if you have a spouse, for the rest of their life as well, Jess. I tell people, carve out some of your money and create an income strategy. Then take part of your money and, yes, take a little risk. If you have this income all figured out and you have these catch-up buckets figured out, then you have some of the money in the market, which is fine. But it's money that you hope so. The no-so money is that income strategy. But Jess, I think the biggest thing I'm seeing from what inflation has done to people right now is they don't have the same amount of emergency funding percentage-wise as they did back 5 years ago, because they've had to use that money. A lot of people had to fix a lot of family issues during COVID. I mean, a lot of people lost their job. A lot of people had sickness. It was a really tough time. And a lot of people have not had time on their side to rebuild that emergency fund. But Jess, it is the cornerstone of retirement. And we have more people come to see us because we talk about all the time, let us help you fix your emergency fund. There's so many neat ways to do it. And it's really easy when you think about it and you do it with intention. You set up a plan. Over the next 3 years, I'm going to create this much money in emergency fund. Maybe you bank draft it. I've seen people accumulate a lot of money where every time they use their debit card, if it's 39 cents, the rest of it, that dollar, goes to savings. And you would be surprised how many people do that. And then I think the next thing people do is, get out the old yellow pad, Jess, and do a T-square, and every time you pull up to that ATM and take that money out, you write it down, and you write it down where it went on the other side. And you keep that list so you know where your money's going. People say to me all the time, I don't want to do a budget. You don't have to have a budget, but you have to know where your money goes, Jess. It's paramount.
You know, Steve, I find these days, especially with how advanced things are with technology, as I said, the world's moving faster and faster. A lot of folks say, you know what, it was just simpler back in the old days. Well, I want to know about retirement. Was retirement planning simpler 30 years ago, or did it just feel simpler because people had different expectations?
I think it's both. I think that technology has really helped us over the past 36 or 37 years develop some tools that have really changed our clients. You know, if you think about it, we have several families. We have all three generations right now. The parents are old, and, you know, those parents had a pension. Think about one family that we helped so much. And just when they retired, he was 55. She had never worked outside the home. When I went to see him, they always had homemade peanut butter cookies, sugar-free, and they were so good. Oh, my God. I mean, those cookies, I just couldn't wait to get them, okay? And back then, I was a pretty big boy, so I didn't need to be eating the cookies. But anyway, they had a pension, and so he left a big oil company at 55, and his pension was about 16% more than what his payroll was every time. Okay, and then plus, he wasn't going to have to be paying into these funds, so they had a lot more money. They kind of thought it was the lottery, Jess. What I just kept saying, what about inflation? We're not going to spend much money in retirement. We're not going to go anywhere. You know how it is. They bought a little RV trailer. They didn't use it. What they did was raise their grandkids and their great-grandkids, and that's where their money went, Jess. And they're the greatest people. I can't say how wonderful they are. But what I want to tell you is, all of a sudden, 10, 15 years later, the buying power of that was so small, and they had to use their other money. But people didn't know what they didn't know. And you know, Jess, it's interesting. As I talk about the tools in our toolbox, I learned everything from our clients to help their kids with, because it's like, oh, that pension sounds great today, but it's not. And, just switching gears, I've told this story before, and, my dad is in the mid stages of Alzheimer's now, and we're so close, and I see him all the time, but, every 4th of July, except the last one, we would barbecue and we'd sit out there, and we had these old chairs, Jess, that we used at a rent house one time. There's some green paint on them, but I'm telling you, those chairs are so valuable to us. So we'd sit them out by the barbecue pit, and he would start talking about his Social Security and what it bought and how today it does nothing. I mean, it's like play money. He's 78 years old, and he retired in early 60s. Now, it didn't matter about the Social Security, but he's really right, because he says so many people think that's a retirement plan, and it's not, Stevie. And I said, yeah, right, Dad, I do that for a living, but he's so right about that. People really factor that into their pie chart a lot bigger of what it will take care of in retirement. Because as inflation goes, every time you have an increase in Social Security, what goes up? The Medicare tax. I mean, it always happens. So you don't really get a raise. So I just think that people don't know what they don't know. And you know what's funny? We talk about technology. Most of people come to see me say, my neighbor said, ChatGPT said, I heard on TikTok. I was reading, Jess, there's people with no education telling people what to do out there. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's insane. I mean, you get opinions kind of anywhere and everywhere these days. Everybody has one. Everyone's putting it out there on social media platforms. You have to really be careful of where you're getting your information from. You've been doing this for over 3 decades, Steve. You're a retirement planner. I want our listeners to know and understand that. You and Derek in the office there, you guys have like over 60 years of experience together. So crucial to sit down with somebody that has experience, not somebody that just got some, he said, she said information and made a video and put it on TikTok. I mean, realize where you're getting your information from.
We had this couple come see us. Their neighbor sent them to us. He had been to talk to one Edward Jones guy, and she had been talked to someone else. I can't remember who it was. And we said to them, okay, how long have they been doing this? Well, so they left, and I said, you just go ask them. One of them had been doing it a year and a half, and one of them had been doing it 3 years. And I mean, you look at Derek and I, all my wrinkles, I've been doing it forever. But Jess, I think what's important about that is not how long we've been doing it, how long our clients have taught us what we're doing.
Yeah, 100%, because everyone you work with, they have a different, walk of life. They have different wants, needs, concerns, and these are things that you guys, it literally is like putting a new puzzle together every time you sit down with somebody, trying to figure out how to put all these parts together the right way, and then also fulfill their bucket lists and their needs, wants, desires. So absolutely, you're learning and you're using, of course, your knowledge and experience along with that. I want to make sure you get the phone number one more time in case you're listening and saying, listen, I want to come in, Steve, sit down with you. I want to talk about all these things that are keeping me up at night and giving me heartburn. Things like market volatility, inflation, taxes, the planning process in general, guys.
People come to see me and they say, well, Steve, I've lived long enough. I've got to start taking those RMDs. That's required minimum distribution. I really don't need the money. My wife just wants to put it in the checking account. Well, we have about $385,000 in that checking account. So it's really not needed. So I really love to sit down with people and brainstorm. You could fund that if you're healthy for a joint last-to-die life insurance contract to leave money to a charity or leave it to your kids or your nieces or your nephews or someone that matters. You could all of a sudden use that to start funding education for your grandkids or your great-grandkids. You could give the money straight to your church, your charities, and it bypasses you. We do that all the time. But Jess, I have a new one. This is amazing. I was talking to our clients the other day, and they were saying, I've had such a problem. We've worked with them for years, and they never wanted to erode the taxes in their retirement plan. We showed them about the Roth conversion, and they didn't want to let that much principal go. So every year they're paying those taxes. Every year they're complaining about it. And so I said to them, have you ever thought about using your RMDs to start eroding your kids' taxes? And it was like the light bulb went off. And, what a great way to help your kids. My daughter Hillary, she's a CPA. When she and Jake got this money when they got married a few years ago, I said, you need to take that money and start using that to pay the taxes so you have tax-free income in retirement. He's an attorney, she's a CPA. And they just looked at me. When you're green and you're 28, 29, 30, you don't think about when you're 63 and about all those taxes. I'm telling you, what a great idea. We brainstormed that. They loved it. So she looked at him and said, we've got money everywhere.
Oh, gosh.
We might start doing a little bit more. And you know what, Jess? Now they have a 3-year plan to wipe out the taxes for their 2 kids. And then they're going to make them a deal. We'll take care of these if you will start doing it from there forward every year. People look at me and say, why would I want to do that? I get that tax deduction every year. Well, when you get my age, you owe all those taxes, Jess. It's either pay now and use discounted dollars or pay later for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I mean, as you can see, whether it's taxes, or, of course, planning for taxes in retirement, it could be a little overwhelming, confusing. And, I mean, a lot of folks haven't thought about that, using your RMDs to help pay down some of your kids' or grandkids' taxes. I mean, that right there is huge. That's something that you can also discuss with Steve. And I know we have a lot of listeners right now as we've kind of gone through the differences of planning for retirement both now and 30 years ago, whether it's about inflation or market volatility or taxes or the planning process in general. And the main question they have, Steve, is, okay, I understand the difference. I understand we're in a different part of time here. I understand I need to have money that is going to be there for as long as I need it to. What I don't understand is how to make this happen. So, Steve, what is it like working with you? What's the process? How can you help?
I think what we do is take something that's kind of overwhelming to people and we break it down and make it palatable. Come sit down and see us. People don't know what any of these initials are. They don't know what a 401k really is. They know they have some money there, and no, it's not a retirement plan. It's it's about our family serving your family. It's about sitting down, getting to know each other, instead of having this online stuff. It's really about breaking it down and figuring out the emotions. What do you want to do in retirement? Or if you're in retirement and you're not happy, what do we need to do financially to make emotionally retirement everything you want it to be, Jess? One of the things that we do at Hoyl is we give people permission to figure out what they really want. You know, they've worked for the man, so many people, all their life. They've never thought of, okay, and sometimes they work for the woman too, okay now?
That's right.
Okay. But I'm going to tell you, they have never opened up their mind and figured out what their hopes, their dreams, what they really want to do. And I think once we start talking about the money, we have to first figure out the emotions. What do you want to do in retirement? And also, Jess, what do you not want to do in retirement? You know, you may not want to clean your garage ever again. Hire it done. You may never want to clean your house. The things that you don't want to do, you don't have to do, but you have to financially plan for it.
If you'd like to sit down with Steve and Derek or a member of the Hoyl Financial Group, visit retiretexasstyle.com.
Investment advice offered through Hoyl Wealth Management, a Texas-registered investment advisor able to provide investment advice in states where it's registered, exempt, or excluded from registration. Content contained herein should not be construed as an offer or solicitation for investment advice or for the purchase or sale of any security, insurance, or other investment product. Investments involve the risk of loss, including possible loss of principal. Please consult with a qualified financial, tax, accounting, or legal professional before implementing any ideas or strategies discussed here. Content provided is obtained from sources believed to be reliable but cannot be guaranteed as to its accuracy or completeness. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities offered through Steve Hoyl, Texas Insurance License 716036. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. Steve Hoyl is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Steve Hoyl is licensed in your state, please call 806-371-9473.